Now, one of the great lines that Peter Dutton has been able to use against this Prime Minister is that he's weak and rattled. Now, almost every day there's an example of the weak, and every couple of days there's an example of a bloke who is panicking that he's going to lose his majority in the Parliament. Now, he is confident that at the next election the Teals will mean there's not going to be a change of government, but believe you me, if they're not a majority government, there is going to be problems for Anthony Albanese. Him and his ministers are a little overly confident at times, a little of the belief that they're there forever, but of course nothing is forever. And one of the examples about the weak and rattled nature of Anthony Albanese is that he hasn't actually learnt the lesson that the last election was just the last election. It's not the forever election. And yes, there's a moment where all the planets line up and you get the result that you want. But 3 years earlier, the Labor Party didn't get the result that they wanted in the so-called miracle victory of Scott Morrison that you and I saw coming. And who knows exactly where we're going to land at the election, either at the end of this year or early next year. But I can tell you, the idea of a government being returned with its current majority, well, is pretty damn slim. There's an indices that I have been mentioning to you for a long time now, because it has been building for a long time, and I think mirrors our worldview, and certainly mine, that I present to you each and every evening. The Prime Minister's politics and spin and the gallery playing the narrative and the get Dutton is not actually connecting with normal people. It's a poll which comes out every couple of weeks, the Essential poll published in the Turnbull Times, otherwise known as The Guardian. Right track, wrong track. Have a look at today. Because today, it didn't just bust through 50%, it roared past half of the country saying that we're in the wrong place. 16-point turnaround from May of last year. The numbers at times were even lower, of course, at the very start of the electoral cycle. But where we are now, more than half of the country believes we are headed in the wrong direction. That's why I think weak and rattled actually applies. Have a look. These are the numbers which have stretched all the way past the last election, all the way through to where we are today. The blue line is the wrong track. It has been steadily building. As I say, May of 2023 is when things started to spin around. They held for a while, they went up. They came ever so slightly down before going back up again to basically 50, and then a huge jump. Now, the reason this took place was because of those inflation numbers. That is the big thing that happened since the last poll. Now, if there's an ability to slightly tweak the numbers or slightly ask different people questions, that number may change by the next poll. But when there's a big change in a poll, you think, well, OK, what's happened? Now, 50-50, which has become 51-49 in favour of Labor, well, of course, that's the nuclear announcement. The number of undecideds has tightened. That's going to be the issue for the opposition. But what changed and went badly for the government? It was that inflation that they had promised they were dealing with, in actual fact, had started to roar up again. Remember, the Reserve Bank will make a decision on interest rates in order to get the inflation figure between 2 and 3%. It is currently 4% off the monthly numbers. Also, the Prime Minister is weak and rattled because a very significant number of Australians do not approve of his leadership. Now, again, this was something that in June of 2022, a new Prime Minister, only 18% of people were disapproving of his approach to things, and we were in that camp. I was well and truly in that camp. Remember the countdown? I knew what this government would be. I did not give it a benefit of the doubt, because they used that benefit of the doubt to build an arrogance that eventually gets them to where they are today. 49% of people disapprove of the Prime Minister's leadership. That is a phenomenal change since the early parts of his Prime Ministership. Now, principally, it's about cost of living. Principally, it's about a bloke who does not take responsibility. Principally, it is about political solutions to real-life problems.